And a warm good morning, Monachal, and welcome to today's very critical track on the Summit of Future hosted by Jain, the deemed to be university. I'm Diksha Ravindranath, and it is my absolute privilege to be the host of each one of you as we embark onto this journey of the entrepreneurship and innovation, the twin engines for the progress. As one propels the ideas and the other propels it forwards. So today we will be exploring those bold ideas, those groundbreaking solutions, and the journey from the vision to the impact. And we would all admit it when we say that one idea could change the world, but only if it is given the right fuel to grow, the right funding to scale the business. And that is exactly what we are about to be exploring on our first panel discussion, the financing innovation and accessing capital for sustainable growth. And we have got a panel of expert speakers here with us. So let me go ahead and introduce each one of them to you. Starting with our wonderful moderator who has agreed to moderate this session for us. With us, we have Shri Bharathwaj Ranganathan, and he is an Honorable Senior Director at Capgemini and services as the APAC Head of Business Services Consulting. Mr. Bharathwaj has over 30 years of experience across finance and accounting, HR, supply chain, and technology. Since 2012, he has worked with prominent companies like Amazon, Genpact, and GE, serving clients such as GlaxoSmithKline, eBay, and Unilever. He mentors EdTech, Fintech, and Agri-Tech startups as NSRCEL, IAM, Bangalore. May I humbly request Mr. Bharathwaj Ranganathan to kindly join with us, please. Thank you so much. Let us join together in welcoming Sri Bharathwaj Ranganathan onto the stage. And now we have Srimati Abhishree Moore. Ms. Abhishree Moore, a manager incubation, assistant professor of the Institute of Chemical Technology, is a seasoned professional with over 8 years of a diverse and robust experience that spans banking, academics, and startup incubation. Ms. Moore has expertise in handling various government schemes like EAM, MEITI, SISF, and DST NIDI. Her versatile background has significantly honored her networking, problem solving, and interpersonal skills, making her a valuable asset in the startup ecosystem. Please join with me as we welcome Ms. Abhishree Moore onto the stage. Thank you so much, ma'am. And now joining with us, we have Shri Vasanth Jeyapaul, the Chief Executive Officer of CAMSPay, a digital payments platform and a subsidiary of the Computer Age Management Services Limited. With extensive experience in the financial services and technology sectors, he plays a pivotal role in shaping CAMSPay's strategic direction and growth. Under his leadership, CAMSPay has emerged as a key player in India's fintech ecosystem, offering a range of digital payment services to enhance financial inclusion and convenience. With that, may we humbly request Sri Vasanth Jeyapaul to join with us on the dais, please. And lastly, joining with us, we have Sri Zakhil Suresh, the founder and CEO of BitSave, a leading platform designed to help individuals manage, save, and invest in the cryptocurrency. With over 10 years of experience in crypto trading, portfolio management, and brokerage, he has a strong track record of guiding clients through the intricacies of the digital asset market, offering strategic investment insights and tailored investment approaches. Currently, Zakhil is focused on developing BitSave, a platform that is designed to help professionals and high net worth individuals integrate crypto assets into their long-term investment portfolios. With that, inviting Sri Zakhil Suresh also onto the Jain. Kindly join with us, please. And with that, once again, thank you so much, all of you, for being here with us today. And we are all excited to listen about the financing innovations and handing over the charge to you, sir.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. You guys didn't have breakfast? So, I think we have a great panel on setting up of how to finance innovation. I think considerably, if I were to take all the people, the hard work which they put, I think there is 100 years plus of experience on this stage. Because while all of us would have worked for 20 years, we would have done 20 plus years of overtime as well. Because when you want to realize your dreams, you don't sleep, right? So let me give you a small context before we go to our esteemed panel for their opinions on how to fund innovation in the current world. First of all, ideas remains. Everybody, India is a population and Indians are very intelligent. So we have a lot of ideas. There are immense amount of ideas which are there in the ecospace. Those ideas, very few of them actually get converted into innovation. And innovation is a very intense process. And once you are getting into that innovation, funding and keeping live that innovation and bringing it to scale and to market is a very, very big task. Because this typically, how many of you are from Kerala? Super, right? So this is just like the jackfruit tree, okay? From the seed to the germination to the time it grows a 45 kilo jackfruit on the tree, which is the biggest fruit which grows on a tree. That is the intense process which every startup goes through. Technically, there were like less than 500 startups 20 years ago. Today, we are grappling with 150,000 startups across the country. And there is an entire industry which is built around this to incubate these startups. There are 15 best incubators in India which I was looking at, and one of them is in Kerala. It is IIM Cochin. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And with that, I want to say, because all of you are college students, I would want to pass on the baton to Abhishree and ask her, how are educational institutions funding incubation, and how are they making it more meaningful for the young students with great ideas to enter into the ecosystem of startups?
Hi, good morning, everyone. So talking about innovations happening in the academic institutions, I have worked with an industry-backed incubator as well, and currently I'm handling an incubator which is backed by an academic institute. The kind of research and the kind of groundwork you see in the academic-based incubator is something you don't get to see anywhere. Simple reason, because students coming from science background, from tech background, they are the ones who are working at the very grassroots level, right? And when you start a business from a very grassroots level, like from zero, there are higher chances of building that into a big successful business. Reason being, you're starting exactly from zero, you're starting from scratch, and you know what's happening where and how it has to go ahead, how to tackle the challenges and problems. So, in my opinion, all the incubation centers backed by academic institutes are the ones which are going to be, uh, which are the ones which are going to create more successful startups going forward. Taking examples of incubation centers of IITs and IIMs, right? There's a hyperloop which is being made by a startup which is backed by an IIM, IIT Madras Incubation Center. There's a hyperloop which is being made by a startup which is backed by an industry backed incubation center. Both of them are doing the same thing, making in hyperloop, right? And which is huge. Making in hyperloop is huge. But if I look at the progress made by the startup which is backed by IIT Madras Incubator is far better than the one backed by the incubator, right? Because that is where you have pool of expertise with you, where you have all the resources available for you. Apart from that, government is funding startups, academic backed startups, like anything. I mean, I don't remember if India has ever seen this kind of funding happening for startups ever, right? And they're building an entire ecosystem. As Barry said, we are building an ecosystem for innovations, and it is going to grow bigger and bigger. So talking about how we are selecting the startups in an academic based incubation center. Every incubation center do have their own sectors that they operate in. So considering these sectors, what are the 5 important key areas we look at? Technologically, how sound is your startup? Very important, right? Going forward, who is going to be a mentor? It is very important for every startup to have a mentor, right? Nobody can make it by their own self. You need to have a mentor in that particular field. Third, you need to understand if your startup is scalable, right? We don't need to build a startup only for the sake of making a startup. We need to look at the scalability, right? Fourth is how profitable it is going to be. And fifth, more important thing, can you commercialize it at a level where you are solving a problem of the society, right? A startup which is created to solve a problem is always going to be a hit. So these are the 5 important things. If students, when you are starting your own startup, if these 5 things you keep into your mind and you make a startup from the point of view of solving a problem and taking it up to a level in your future, you will make it.
Thank you so much, Abhishree. I would actually, you brought up a very important point of how educational institutions like IIMs and IITs are helping in incubation. I think Vasanth has a point of view because Vasanth has been closely involved with IIT Madras. So, Vasanth, I would want you to impress upon the audience as to what kind of innovations are getting incubated in these educational institutions and what consequences they have on our larger innovation as an ecosystem in India at this point of time. Because I met 3 people from yesterday, and 2 of them want to become entrepreneurs. Okay, so that's the thing which is catching on. I think the youth of India today is no longer saying that I'll go and find a government job, I want to work in an IT company, or I want to work for a multinational. They're very enthused towards starting and having their own business. So, how are the educational institutions helping, like IIT Madras, your experience? Please share your experience.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you. Glad to be here and to have this conversation around how we can finance innovation. Talking about this future and what future can unfold for all of us always a dear subject to me, and then I'm really glad to be sitting, among amidst this audience here. I was for a minute thinking that Abhishree has taken away the thunder of what I wanted to talk about. We are very closely associated with IIT Madras. Like she rightly pointed out, IIT Madras has become a hotbed of enabling a lot of new technology, new innovation, and it's become a breeding station for all of this. I would argue that it's one of the most successful incubation place ever within the country. In some sense, it used to be Mumbai those days, but when it comes to innovation, technology especially, Chennai seems to be really happening very close to where we are, and it's all the South Indians can be very proud about. What you've done with IIT, incidentally, I want to make one more point before I talk about the project that we're doing with IIT Madras. This innovation and funding of innovation is not just a problem that startups alone face, right? You can imagine very well-established corporate firms, all of them have different business objectives and motives and goals. Essentially, if you go to a board and ask for a sanction for capital to be invested in a new innovative project, the same problem inventor or a startup entrepreneur will face, those questions are very relevant, and it's as challenging, as daunting as it can be. Even for people who are established businesses, run established like myself and the colleagues in the room, they would agree with me that it's not easy to go and propose or execute a innovation as a project. So the problem remains the same. And I'll also would argue, saying that the way you see the problem is the problem. Okay, so just a little more context. I used to participate in some of the future summits and conferences. There is the Singularity University based out of the US, the Valley. They always focus about the future. What I learned from some of these conferences and my engagements is that what are we term as scarce? You have scarcity, right? Whichever way you look at it, what are the scarce things that we can think about? What is scarce in the market or the industry or the economy? What is scarce? Anybody can take a guess? Audience is a very nice audience we have here. Is oil a scarcity? Fuel, oil, energy, right? Whatever we think about all these are scarce resources, we look at the other way around. There's abundance of all this happening all at the same time. So I would encourage and I'll also look, request you to look into the fact that there's enough opportunity available to do innovation. So innovation is not just for startups. I want to say innovation is going to be the key for any economic growth, right? So with that context, I want to talk a little bit about the project that we've done with IIT Madras. We started this 3 years ago, little over 2.5 years ago. The finance minister came and inaugurated this. One of the reasons we chose IIT is also the fact that that's, again, like you mentioned, it's a breeding place for all those new ways of doing things. Again, don't make the mistake of thinking that innovation means that we are going to bring all new solution, all new technology, all even looking at changing the way things work. That's also an innovation. Okay, for example, in the financial services industry that I'm a part of, we have this problem of processing transactions. India as a country, we have this 1.4 billion population. The challenges that we have is not the challenges the rest of the world need to deal with. So the innovation needs to happen locally, okay? Which means that the place we live, the place we generate revenue, the place we do commerce, the place we create livelihoods and so on, so is where I think the new ideas can come from. To that extent, I would like to believe that we made the right choice of going and setting up our incubation center. This is called SIFL. Incidentally, this is done for fostering research, doing innovation, finding out alternative solutions for existing problems in the area of fintech. It can be anything. Essentially, we are a financial services firm, so we chose that subject. We involved the management school and also the computer sciences department of IIT Madras. We went and set up this. One way to look at this is also to say, if we were to fund this outside of, let's say, a CSR activity or activity which is there to for social needs and everything else, we would have thought multiple times over before even took the call of going investing in that ecosystem. So, but we went ahead and did that. I mean, some of these ways you should look at. Funding is not about just getting a financial assistance or support from an investor. It can come from different forms. I think my colleagues already alluded to that. To say it's not about one thing. You need proper mentorship. You need people who can guide you. Somebody can correct you. And I can tell you, we have fabulous, research faculty members based out of IIT Madras. They can actually give you easy nuggets in terms of what will work, what will not work. One of the things that will make you work as being inventors or innovators is that you didn't know the end point. It's not like you pour in a lot of billions of dollars and don't know what the outcome is. Okay, so one way to look at it also that you should be able to predict what the potential outcomes could be. So all this have fallen in place. I'm very glad to tell all of you here there are many problems that we posted to that particular innovation center that we created. Students have participated. Like you mentioned, these days people don't want to go and work with established firms. Okay, there's a lot of thrill and excitement, right? Happening in the startup ecosystem or something which is like a fintech area or agri-tech and so on and so forth. There are many such opportunities are there. So just to summarize the point about IIT Madras, this center is running fully funded. Looking at what we have done with that particular SIFL platform, other corporates are very interested coming joining hands with us, thereby creating pathway to make this really work. Okay, extremely a successful story that can be replicated. And just to say the final point, we have solved for 2 or 3 major problems when it comes to transaction processing. Okay, if anybody is interested, keen to know about what we have done, I'll be available offline to talk about that.
Do you all know a company called General Electric? Anybody? Yes? You know who is the founder of General Electric? It's an inventor by name Thomas Alva Edison. I'm sure you've heard of Thomas Alva Edison. So without further ado, as they say, the dessert is for the last and the best is for the last. I'll go to the last panelist. Okay, Zakhil has been that person who has innovated and got a company out, right? So this is the true story. We are practitioners. We are in the outside. We are like the fringe of an ecosystem, if you may say. But Zakhil lives this life daily. So he is in the inpatient, he is in the outpatient, he is a nurse, he is the doctor, he is everything in his organization BitSave, which is digital asset management. his journey will be very, very unique to understand as to how they started with an idea, how they were pitching it to multiple people, got funding, and how they are scaling up of an organization. So, without further ado, Zakhil, take it over. You can tell your story. And you know what? And pardon me if I'm wrong, maybe he looks the youngest among us. So, he probably relates to more of you. So, over to you, Zakhil.
Thanks, Barry, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, and also thanks for having me. I live in Bangalore, but I'm originally from this town named Kodungalur, which is 30 kilometers from this place. So have this, I was doing CA after my schooling. I thought I'll skip college because I thought, like, let me directly go and be a CA and start making money. Right. And it was my second year of articleship that I started reading about Bitcoin and got fascinated by how the technology is. So this was way back 2014. Spent few years understanding it, investing in it, and in 2017 I had to make this choice of whether to write my CA finals or like do something full time in crypto. I just felt it was a gut feeling that I thought from a career alpha perspective, like because I had already spent three years understanding the space and I saw a potential. So I thought, let me leave, not really leave, like keep CA aside. In case this doesn't work out, I can always come back and finish my course. So I took that bet. I started as a broker. I was helping people buy and sell crypto in India back then. Later, I worked with an exchange, which was one of the largest crypto exchanges in India back then. But then, as for any new innovations, the challenges from the regulator. So in 2018, RBI came into the picture and said, like banks can no longer support crypto companies. So we were cut off from the banking channels in this country. So obviously we had to shut down the business, but the good thing was we fought a case in Supreme Court. And in 2020, the Supreme Court said the RBI circular is actually unconstitutional. And that led to the industry coming back in India. So exchange we had already shut down, but I was spending most of the time during COVID trading the markets. So you might have seen the 3 words CMT. CMT is basically chartered market technician, which is just like a CFA level thing, but very specific to trading. So if any of you are interested in trading, this is a course that you should definitely look into. So around 2021, we realized that there's a problem that's happening in the crypto ecosystem. That is, there are way too many crypto tokens launched every day. So if you go to a platform, you see like 100, 200 tokens, and as a new investor, you're not able to figure out what these tokens are. And there's no enough legit information that helps you invest into these things. So the kind of people that we were talking to, let's say doctors, working professionals, HNIs, they were finding it very difficult to allocate a small portion of their portfolio to crypto. So that's when we decided, let's try to solve that problem, because we realized that the number of crypto tokens will only increase, which means that the problem will also keep getting better over time. So that's how we landed at the idea of BitSave, which is like a crypto mutual fund, right? For example, for stocks, you have these Nifty 50 and S&P 500, which is a basket of top stocks. So similarly, for crypto, you have similar indexes which are managed by reputed index providers. So in our case, we give you simple access to invest in the top crypto assets that are out there. So which means you don't have to construct the portfolio yourself. You don't really have to go and research yourself. So all that we take care of. So that's been the journey for like last 10 years, I would say. Very specific to funding. When we started, like we have 4 founders, and all of us are first-time founders. And it took us a while to understand, how these dynamics work. It took us a while to understand that why VCs are ghosting us. It took us a while to understand, like why they're investing in something else that we feel is, not as good as us. So I think 6 months into it, I realized it's more of an art than science, as in, like.
To interrupt you, But in Indian context of this investor whole thing also, people will not say, no, I will not fund the idea. They will keep you hanging. That's the most dangerous part, I think, in the ecosystem. Correct.
I remember during a dinner, a few of us, the founders, we cornered a VC, and he was like, "Why are you not responding to us?" He was like, "My inbox has 1,000, unread emails." So yeah, I get their part, but it took us a while. So I think for founders, it's important to realize at what stage of the company, what kind of capital you need. So for example, we knew that to pull off what we are doing, we need capital, as in there's a significant amount of money that you have to invest on day one. And we realized we're not going to get it from an institutional investor. So first round was exploring the friends and family plus the angels that we know. So when we started the first 6 months, we raised some like a quarter half, like $250,000 from angels. So it was all about getting to a point where a VC looks at us and say, now you're matured enough for us to give you a few millions, right? So the first step for us was to get to that point. So we used the seed capital to build out the product, get the early traction, get the word out there, build some, trust around the brand. Once that was ready, we thought, let's start going and start pitching to the VCs. Now, I think an important question that you all need to ask is whether you need VC money or not, right? And most cases in a lot of business, you don't really need VC money. For us, it was about, since we want to get into a regulated business. For example, we are working with a regulator outside India to get our product regulated, and almost like 700.7 million needs to be locked up there as an assurance of that we're not going to run away, right? So it's doesn't make sense for us to put that from our capital and pull that up. So, and they also require us to be backed by a reputed fund house sort. So there's a certain credibility that a VC will bring to your brand, especially if you're in a business where trust matters, right? So it was a choice that we made that yes, we're going to raise. For us, it's about being client first. We feel that what we are selling is a highly risky product, so we don't want to be in a position where we call you every day and say, why don't you invest in Bitcoin? Right? That's not what we want to do. For us, it's about creating a very safe environment where you allocate whatever you're comfortable. So we wanted a VC that understands that philosophy, and let us build this brand the way we wish and envision it. So we figured out, there are a few names that we thought are right for us, and it was all about getting to a point where they feel, we are right for them as well. Like I think it's a relationship that is equally important as the founder relationship as well, right? Because you're basically bringing in someone on board, giving them a significant part of your company, and you're going to build it together. So that relationship is very important. So last year we found this Singapore-based fund house called Leo Capital. The good thing about them was all the founders, all the partners there were founders themselves. They built companies, so we realized that they're able to empathize with us at a very different level, and that we really liked it. And almost 6 months of my time just went into convincing them, as in, we need you and we're gonna make you guys proud. So yeah, last year we raised our pre-series A round, and now I think we're getting into that next stage where for this year it's about getting regulated and then scaling globally. So yeah, that's been the journey so far, and fortunately we have the right people backing us as well, I feel. And it's very important, whoever is trying to raise funds, I think a wrong VC can actually destroy your business. We've seen that a lot. So it's important that you access the right kind of capital as well.
So there are angel investors, there are dark knights, and there are takeover specialists. I mean, a lot of media report on what's happening with Jio and Dunzo is doing rounds. So you can have a very dominant partner who is funding you and who takes away the business idea from you and data from you as well. It's interesting. that in the, I mean, well put your story in terms of what's happening, but it's very interesting in the ecosystem we see. Most of the big companies which are making name are either in edtech or they're in fintech or they're into a service. So whom do you hear about? You hear about Byju's, you hear about Flipkart, you hear about Swiggy, Zomato, you hear about Cred, you hear about PaisaPay or such applications. So fintech, especially with the use of technology, everybody having a cell phone, it is amazingly caught on very well, and it's a very regulated area as well. I would want Vasanth you to throw some light on how the ecosystem is evolving, and is it? And I also wonder sometimes, right? And a lot of students may also have the same thought. If I am paying money through UPI and or through any other system like Amazon Pay or Google Pay or RuPay or whatever it is, I am paying the money and somebody is getting it immediately. What is in it for the business to be existing at all? And how is funding for something for common good taking precedence in the Indian scenario right now?
Yeah, again, subject is very close to my heart. I've been in the fintech ecosystem even before the term fintech got coined. We are, for everybody's benefit, I belong to this group called CAMS Group based out of Chennai. Incidentally, we support a lot of these fintech companies. Okay, so all big and small, different sizes and shapes. Interesting point that you raised about what is really happening, what is really the mode, is that even this morning when we met, sharing some notes, we were talking about everybody thinks that it's a very, quote unquote, sexy kind of a thing. No, I want to do something very innovative. What does it mean? I will become an Amazon, I'll become Flipkart, another example, and so on and so forth. Actually, people get carried away by the name and fame and everything else compared to what we really want to put out in the market. So now, I also mentioned in my earlier part of the conversation saying that it's very important for us to be part of, solving some problems. So solving for problem in India has to happen at scale. And interestingly, some of this innovative way of getting things done in this country has happened not by, big VC funding that and then all happen out of like garage kind of experience. People just go out and think about a great idea and say how we want to solve for all of this. I also agree with his point about, no, this is a very risky business to be in. And the other point that he mentioned about how is that a billion today, about 16 billion transactions are happening in this platform called UPI. Okay. No other part of the world. So we always tend to have this feeling that innovation is for somebody else. Okay, the Western world will innovate, we'll just follow through. That's not the case. We have solved for this problem, which also means, tells you we have it in us to innovate, right? That is a very clear point I want to underscore. Two is, all of this, if I talk about Aadhaar, UPI, all of the public good. And it's not a commercial exercise that has happened in this market. All started as an idea, people got together, nobody worried about what funding will come and who will support, will the government back me up? It's a matter which relates to payments, so is RBI going to be happy, not happy? Nobody thought about all of that. The real focus was only to solve for the problem. The idea itself grew from, from the scratch and became what we are seeing as reality. Now, what do I mean by public good? Public good means that nobody needs to look at, going for, funding for innovation. I want to create this thing. There is no online fund transfer mechanism out in the world. Okay, within sub-second, we transfer funds from point to person A to person B. I want to create that. And so this could have been a great story otherwise. Even today, trust me, even go to the United States, you don't see this, what they call faster payments, like equivalent of UPI. Okay, it doesn't happen the same day. Or that doesn't happen in a few seconds. Okay, it's all, everything is a batch processing and things like that. So this is all about thinking, creating that ecosystem, and then getting the right resources in. So there is this organization by name iSpirit based out of Bangalore. People from Bangalore may be familiar. They all got together, all experts from different industry cohorts. They all got together and started solving for this. Now this question of who will fund this, who will put the dollar, all those questions vaporized over time by looking at what outcomes we are going to be able to think about. Then they roped in the industry titans and all of them. They put them as brand ambassadors for all of this. Took it to the government, got a blessing from the regulators and so on and so forth. That's how this idea shapes up. This is to say, for you to, you're an inventor, you want to innovate something, you want to solve for a problem. Financial matter is very important, but it's not the only thing. It's not. It's going to be like a combination of many things. I think that's what I want to again overemphasize to say. All of us should look at pursuing our ideas and look at what we want to invent, what we want to solve for, how we can scale, what technology. It's not about thinking that no, I have this blockchain, AI, and everything's available, and then I'm put everything inside a box, and some magic is going to happen. Actually, no, this doesn't happen that way. Okay, no one solution will fit for all, right? So there's always a question of the right level of resourcing that needs to be done. So there are many cases that are happening today. I think talking about another example I want to talk about is called account aggregation. Okay, how many of you are familiar with something called account aggregation? Not many. I think this is a big school, university like this should be, talking about all of this. That's another thing I would urge all of you to look into. What it means is that those days is funding. Let's talk about personal funding, right? Loans and everything else that you go to a bank. Let's say roughly about 30% of the population can get access to funding. You want to buy a home loan or a bike loan or car loan or whatever. Beyond this 30% of the population, you don't have credit access. Okay, that's the reason for like people like me, last 20-25 years, we've been talking about something called the financial inclusion, which means that we'll go and serve the population beyond the top tier 1, tier 2 cities. Forget tier 1, tier 2. Even metros are getting served. Tier 1 to some extent, tier 2, we are just about scratching surface. Big institutions, financial services entities like SBI couldn't even go beyond tier 2. That's a reality. Now, what is being solved for is all the small and new ideas. Account aggregation, one example. This will help you to discover the credit worthiness of people who do not have a formal income. Okay, for example, salaried income. People don't have formal way of statement, bank statements, and so on and so forth. Kirana stores, all this kind of small-time vendors, they have the cash flows coming into their accounts. They do realize some income on a day-to-day basis, and also to think about what is suitable for a person in the metro location may not be suitable for the rural location. So now, what can solve for technology is available, right? So I come from a place where I think, how many of you use ATMs? All of you, right? So some of you are raising your hand halfway through, okay? So now everything has become digital and a UPI transfer. So ATM is almost becoming a little historical now. But I want to give a quick example. When we were deploying...
I want to just give you a shot here. You said no, ATMs are becoming redundant to a large extent because nobody's going and taking cash. I'm working with one very large company in America where they're converting ATMs into charging ports for electric vehicles.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay, because they have the real estate and it is in prime area usually.
Right.
So see, this is also subsidiary innovation is also important. How do you return the business is also important. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist myself.
It's a great takeaway for me because the industry and sometimes the regulator keeps asking this question over and over again. What do we do with all these ATMs? We have about a few lakh ATMs in this country. This could be a best alternative potentially to utilize the vantage points that all these ATMs are occupying. So thank you. But going back to the example, so those days when you want to set up an ATM, it used to take a few months. I have to import a satellite from Israel, and they have to get the machine from UK or the United States. All those ATM machines, the connectivity will be pretty bad, and we can't even connect those ATMs. Forget all of this. We can't even transport cash and replenish cash and do all of this. And long story short, today that is not the case. Today we're thinking about what problem we're trying to solve those days is very different from the problem we are trying to solve today. Okay, so the fact that now many of you are a little hesitant to think about do you really use the ATM and want to use an ATM? There's no need for those things at all today, right? So we have solved for all this by easier technology, better technology, cheaper technology. So I would rather argue saying that some of those big things, big ideas can be achieved, big innovations can be realized by thinking big at the same time making use of what is already available. It's again, I'm sick of repeating saying that it's not about the greatest of the technology you want to implement. It's not about the greatest of funding that somebody is going to put on your company or your idea. It's all about the way you look at the problem. You want to solve the problem. The ecosystem will come together. There are enough play available today. So things like this account aggregation today, it's in the early stages. but it's solving a lot of problems for people in villages. People don't even know what's a mutual fund. Normally, you talked about crypto and things like that. It's a long way for us to think about. Maybe a few lakh people in the country may use it for a country of population 1.4 billion. If you really want to save this country and the livelihoods of everybody else, I'm not a major fan of this thinking that we are going to be the third largest economy by 2027. By what means, I don't know. But I think individual level people grow. That's where the real growth is, to my mind, happens. To that extent, all of us want to be an inventor, want to be an innovator. I think we should all keep all of this in mind before even thinking about venturing out doing what we want to do. Just want to say, I think any idea, you have enough ecosystem available today. There are enough platforms available. Regulators have different funds. Regulators are enabling some of these innovation hubs, be it SEBI, be it RBI. All of them are coming together, and a place like Gift City today, I don't know, want to quickly talk about it. Gift City is based out of Gujarat, Ahmedabad. This is to ensure that we enable a lot of this commerce and cross-border transactions and funding coming in, coming out, going out, and so on and so forth. They beautifully designed. They put a separate regulator for that. The reason why they put a separate regulator, RBI could have been an easier choice, or SEBI could have been a much easier choice, but we want to look at the problem very differently. We're trying to solve for a different problem, and hence it calls for a different approach altogether. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. It was very valuable, and you are very right. We should not look at the nation growing in terms of biggest economy. It's how the individuals are growing. And for all of you out there who want to be innovators, business owners, the biggest business in India, apparently Reliance, they have one measure, one thing which they see every day. How much is the cash inflow? They don't care about depreciation, everything. Everything is on cash flow. So I am spending 100 rupees today, am I getting 110 rupees in revenue? So 10 rupees positive revenue. So if you guys work on that concept of positive revenue coming in, cash flow coming in, I think you have made it big. So how many of you have heard about the Mughal Empire? Yes? Okay. Yeah? So do you know who was the queen of Akbar? History doesn't talk about the queens. Okay, and the queen in a Mughal emperor scenario, the empress was called Mariam-e-Zamani, which means the mother of generation. So Akbar's wife actually was a great businesswoman. She had her own ships to take pilgrims to Hajj. She used to trade in silk. She used to trade in spices with the Portuguese and make a lot of money. And she did all this being behind a parda. So women entrepreneurs, since that time to this time, are possibly very successful. There are a lot of startups which are actually incubators who prefer women entrepreneurs because, I don't know, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, my sister, my niece, everybody's going to be, my wife, everybody's going to be proud. I think women manage things better. Okay. So with that, we will go to you, Abhishree. Tell us how women entrepreneurship and funding is happening in this current ecosystem, and what benefits are there in such women-centric enterprises?
Women innovate a lot.
Huh?
True.
Women innovate a lot.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because, see, one thing is that, women's innovation is why you have different kinds of tiffins also, because they are using small ingredients and making a better meal. So women have been innovating from the kitchen onwards to technology today.
Agreed. So, talking about women being better managers and women being better at innovation.
Accepted. You please tell now about how women entrepreneurs can access funding and drive innovation.
Right. So now coming to that point, there are incubation centers in this country who are backing only women-led startups, right? Now, women-led startup doesn't necessarily mean a startup which is only having women founders or co-founders. You can have a women co-founder with 51% shareholding and a male co-founder, right? So, for example, two of your friends want to start a startup and you want to take it towards the women-led innovation. The female can have a 51% shareholding and the man can have a 49% shareholding. Now, talking about incubation centers, like there is a university by the name of SNDT in Mumbai, right? It's a women university and they are funding only women-backed startups. There's a university in Jaipur, a little ahead of Jaipur in Tong, by the name of Banasthali. They're also incubating women-led startups. So every state these days are coming up with such incubators who are focusing on women-led startups, right? There are a lot of schemes by the government which are focused towards women. Some Pradhan Mantri Yojanas are there. There are private institutions as well who are funding women-led startup. Like if you would know about SIDBI, right? SIDBI has a fund which is specifically for funding innovations led by women. So our country is going heavily onto supporting women-led startups. Another reason is because, we've heard a lot about women not being given equal opportunity and XYZ, so many things, uplifting the women empowerment, which is sometimes being taken in the wrong direction as well. But if you take it in the right direction, there's a lot that's happening for women. So I would really urge all the girls out there, start thinking of starting of something of your own, right? It will help you a great deal. Second reason, on personal grounds, I ask women to do it, is because when you start something of your own, we women, no matter what we do, whether we are IS officers, whether we are MDs of some company or whatever we are, eventually we have to manage our house, right? We can't leave it on to men. Sorry, right? That's true, right? Right?
No, we are telling boys nowadays, masterclass for boys is that, learn cooking to get better girlfriends. Okay. So, no, we are also evolving. But not that fast, but it's happening.
Women are any day better. Okay. So when you have to manage your house and you want to manage your work, it becomes very difficult for women. If you have a startup of your own, initial 5-10 years are going to be very difficult. No doubts about it. But later on, you have an easy, manageable life where you have your own freedom to operate, right? You're not dependent on anybody. You're running your own business. You can manage things the way you want. And most importantly, government is supporting. A lot of private agencies, universities are supporting this cause right now. So for me, if I would say, girls should start focusing on starting something of their own, right? Do a research, find out which incubation center will help you the most, find out which are the schemes available for you, and you girls can be in a very good pedestal.
So, it's a very interesting take, and actually what she says is true. I know a friend of mine who took her grandmother's recipe of making pickles, and she did this pickling business for 5 years. She scaled it to a certain level. She sold the recipe, she sold the secret, and she moved on to become a serial entrepreneur. I think there is no one way to succeed. You can do multiple innovations within something as well. And lack of planning in India is very obvious with so much money being spent on Swiggy and Zomato. People are now making sambar and then ordering for curry leaves on Zepto and Swiggy. So we are meandering in that world at this point of time. But coming back to where funding is, in the 11 sources of funding, and I want to say even the best of the capital intensive industries, and we will go back about 20 years or so, 4 airlines came into existence. One was Air Deccan, which was started by Captain Gopinath. One was Kingfisher Airways, led by Mr. Vijay Mallya. The third was Indigo. People didn't even know who the founders were. The fourth one is Go Air, which was done by the Nusli Wadia Bombay Dyeing Group. If you take the innovation was to provide air service. It's nothing new. But how they did it? Air Deccan actually gave 1 rupee plane tickets. They said, we want to make airline travel accessible. And their logo was Simply Fly. So they were pushing for that. And they were bootstrapped. They did not have 50 aircraft. They had very basic aircrafts which were able to fly. Okay, they had literally no food service. Nothing was there on board. You couldn't eat anything. You would just go sit and come out. right? You would travel just for pure travel. Then there was Indigo, which put some elements of comfort like food and drinks, but still kept everything very tight. And then there was Go Air, which was between the Kingfisher's ultra luxury and things like that. And see what happened in the last 20 years, because it's heavily capital intensive. Air Deccan, for the founders, it was profitable. They sold it off to Kingfisher and they exited. Kingfisher spent a lot of money on freebies and services which they thought were top of the class and Indian people will pay for it. Unfortunately, Indian people are very price sensitive. We will pay 200 rupees less, but go to airport at 3 o'clock in the morning to take the flight, right? So that's the Indian mentality as such. So Kingfisher did make it through. And Go Air, it was slightly profitable, but again, they were not able to take the COVID and they had a wrong choice of aircraft because it was the replacement of Boeing engines didn't come through, so they failed. So the only one who's surviving today and they're ordering more 1,000 aircrafts is Indigo. So this should be a lesson for you as a case study to see how can you constantly keep pushing for things in multiple areas when you look at it, and funding is always possible. If you have a good idea, if you have a good revenue generation in your idea, there will be people who will always be able to fund you. Because if you want to bet, you will never bet for the sake of losing. Everybody bets on a winner. So if you have a winner idea, the funding goes much more easily. But with that, I would like to come back to Zakhil and say, Zakhil, for these young people who want to be in innovation space and do their own business, what are the mistakes they should not make? From what in your experience you have learned is, oh my God, I wish I was 5 years younger and I didn't do it. So what do you think are a few mistakes they should not do as innovators?
It's an interesting question. I keep saying, you can't copy success, but you can actually avoid mistakes, looking at other people have done and maybe, try to avoid it in your life. So I think personally, especially when you get an idea, right, I think we don't really look at the downside a lot. There's something that I always keep telling youngsters, that there's a chance that something may not work at some point. So have you factored into that, right? Because it's all comes down to decision making at the end of the day. So if you know what you're signing up for on day one, as in there's a chance of banking approvals taking longer, regulatory approvals taking longer, then it's easier in your head to plan accordingly. You can't just think that everything is just gonna work the same. It's like you're solving problem for your clients or users, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of problems to solve internally on a day-to-day basis. I felt that a lot of people, I think we were discussing this before the panel, the fact that we all see the fancy things that all the brands do, but there's a lot of effort that goes in day out, which the outside public don't see. For example, in India, we are supposed to get a registration, if you're operating in India. It's been 1.5 years, and we have done everything humanly possible from our side to get through the line, but because of no fault of ours, because of how slow the ecosystem or the system is, it's just pending, and there's no timeline because the law doesn't mandate them to do it within a particular timeline. So always try to, we all dream big, and we all thinking where we want to be, but if you can also think what can potentially go wrong in your journey and maybe have some sort of a plan in place, that will help, because things do go wrong, right? That's very common. So that you don't wake up to a surprise, and whenever something goes wrong, you are ready with a plan. So I think that's something that I can say.
If I may
Answer on what, if you want to fund a startup, what are 3-4 things you will look for?
Okay, I'll cover that for
Quick
sure.
bite,
Yeah, a little nugget here. So I read something in the morning that Twitter thought I should share this with you, just to chime into what he said. What are things you should not do while venturing into projects? I mean, this is one of the things you should think about. This is all about India, right? Indian landscape. 95% of the people cannot speak English fluently, right? Which means only 5% of people can speak English. But the medium of articulation, communication, everything is English, whether like it or not. It is not about your ability to speak English, right? This is written by none other than one of the successful entrepreneurs based out of Tamil Nadu, Zoho Corporation. All of you may be familiar. He just recently stepped down as the CEO of the company, and then he started enabling local people, local entrepreneurs, and then building a lot of innovative things to solve for. And this is what he has to say. So he must be in this early 60s or late 50s, one of this age zone. He said, I started learning Hindi. He wants to reach out to people in the country because South Indians, as I am, I don't speak Hindi properly, right? I can't even speak Hindi properly. But if you have to, go and touch the lives of people in the hinterlands or in other parts of the country, you need to speak the local lingo. The data tells you the story very, very clearly. I mean, don't go wrong. I mean, data will never tell you this thing. So, just to his point about, what are things you don't have to do, one thing is you have to look at real data. Data cannot go wrong. But at the same time, the right context. That's also important. I'll give you another example of why merely going looking at the data will not solve the problems, right? Those days, early days, we are doing payments and all this stuff. This is mobile top up. Okay, you were talking to mobile. It's very difficult. You have to go to some run to some few kilometers, catch hold of a corner shop guy, give him some cash. Then he'll ask you for Aadhaar ID and every ID you don't have. Then all of this done takes about half an hour or 1 hour for you to top up everything. By the time you don't solve your problem. But today it happens in a few seconds, right? This is stopping a problem. But we look at the population said, this country's got 1 billion population. You do top up like this. We were calculating so many billions of transactions happening those days. That's also wrong. So look at the data at the right level and think clearly. That's the recipe that I want to say. Sorry, I forgot the question that you asked me.
No.
What is that?
No, I said,
okay, if I had to look at the startup, right? So, had both personal and corporate experience of looking at funding startup companies and entrepreneurs and inventors. So, one of the mistakes that we make is to think about making some wrong assumptions, right? So, again, very akin to what I just said about language and everything else. This happened in real time during COVID, the pandemic. One local person reached out to me and said that I want to start up a payment company. So when I started my payment career, there were about, you can count people, right? So 5 or 6 players in the country. Today there are thousands of payment players. This person is, especially in the middle of the COVID, he called and said, I want to start another payment company. I said, I'm not interested. I'm not in the mood to think about it. Okay. And so cut to a long story short, the guy was coming back to me again, like the way he said, sometimes we don't know why the investors are turning away, your proposition or why they're not able to tell the story properly. The problem is both sides. Even for the investors, they have to look at certain information data the way you should be looking at it. First thing he did was this guy spoke to me in Tamil. For a reason I don't want to mention the name of the company, he spoke to me in Tamil. It's not about I don't like Tamil or anything like that, but somebody seeking investment, asking for funding, the first port of call he calls up to say, okay, sir, this is the problem and blah, 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 everything in Tamil. He explains the whole thing to me and he tells me anything very, very profound. It went above my head. It says, I'm going to solve the problem for the rural environment. I want to make sure all the people who are in the villages and small places, I want to enable electronic payment with their, small phones or whatever they have. I really want to get there. So this is our stated, industry stated, manifesto and intent to say, I will go and do this financial.
I will solve the world's problem very quickly.
This is what I've been saying as a true person, I used to go and stand in front of the industry forum to say that we should go beyond this, top 30 cities and countries and so on and so forth. The mistake is I was not listening to the person. Okay, it's very, very important to see, you have to speak into somebody else listening. That's very, very important as this thing. So there's a bunch of soft issues which technically, these people overlook. Okay. The inventors, their tag is like this, I'm into inventor, I'm a creative person, I'm this, I'm that, and hence I don't have to articulate it very shortly. Wrong. You need to perhaps catch it with other sales. So you may not be very, like I said, you don't have to be a fluent person, speaking English like the way British used to speak. That's not your language too. What is important is what you need to focus on. There are a lot of the softer skills I would think that both the investor, potential investor, and also the potential, company or firm seeking investment should take it up. One is the way you present yourself, right? So that is very, very important.
It's all about articulation and presentation and being in the groove, so to speak.
to me, I'll just sum up by saying there's no effective storytelling. That's a very important skill set. I'm sure all of you are part of a business school or a finance, environment, or entrepreneurial studies, whatever you're studying. Please, make sure you sharpen those softer skills and make sure you make the right pitches. That's what I mean.
Thank you. And I think with that, we'll come to you very quickly, quick bite on how is AI helping in funding decisions right now? And then we will go back to audience for their questions very quickly.
Okay. AI is going to streamline a lot of things. A lot of things which are haywire today, a lot of data which is not in place. AI is going to streamline everything. Few points I'll give you. It is going to, from the startup point of view, it is going to give you access to the right investor. Right? Today we don't know which investor is interested in investing in my kind of startup or in my sector. That will be streamlined. AI will give you access to better crowdfunding options. Very important. AI will help you understand, if you know how to read data, and if you know how to access AI, and if you know how to use it, it'll give you a clarity on if the venture capitalist or the angel investor or the investor is the right kind of investor or not. I know a lot of startup stories where investors have been there, VCs have been there, AIs have been there, they've invested, but eventually they were so control freak that they tried to control the startup, right? Investors need to understand they can't control a startup, right? Only the startup founder, only the person who has found that technology, worked on it, knows how to take it ahead, right? They know this is my startup, that is how it has to go ahead. When a venture capitalist come into it, right, they try to control. That's where things go wrong. There are a lot of startup stories where businesses have gone haywire only because of investors being too pokey and being too involved in the management.
Yeah, but more of that AI is going to bring due diligence. It's going to do checklists. It's going to.
Yeah, from the investor's point of view, it is going to streamline your due diligence, right? So there are some startups who start this startup only for the sake of being in the limelight. Don't do that, right? You're digging your own grave. Going forward, AI is going to streamline all these things. Due diligence, which is very important. Any person who's going to invest their money in your business, they are going to do a thorough due diligence. And due diligence doesn't just mean your financial credibility. It is going to cover everything, right? They are going to have your entire kundali in their hand, right? Your legalities, if you have any wrong track records, finances, everything. So due diligence is going to be there. Apart from that, it will make easier for investors to understand which is the growing area, which is the growing sector. Should I invest in this startup? Apart from that, the XYZ might be a growing area, but this startup might not grow, right? Or this startup might not do well. Why? Because there's a problem of scalability.
So,
practically not.
So what's going to happen is that data is going to take precedence over whether I like this startup or not. It is not going to be instinctive. It's going to be data driven. So, but today, I think we have had a great discussion, and we want to give some time to the audience to ask some questions to us as well, very quickly. And you can ask questions in Malayalam, Tamil, Hindi, Kannada, Telugu, French, Spanish, and a little bit of Bengali. Okay, so and a little bit of Haryanvi. So this is today we are giving you this great opportunity. Among us, just like in an Indigo plane, they will tell you what languages they speak. We are saying these are the questions we can answer. However, if you have any outstanding questions, you can catch us outside the room as well, and we will gladly take those questions.
Thank you so much, sir. So,
And
what
any
are the
questions?
What are the questions that you would love to pitch for the panelists? Please, can you please pass on the mic?
Short question, huh?
Good morning, my name is Aditya. This question is to Zakhil. So how do you decide how much equity you need to give to the VC and how much funding you need?
Excellent question.
Yeah. So I think how much funding is, I think it's more of a backworking that you can sit. So first, look at what you're trying to achieve with that funding, right? For example, when you raise, you need to set a goal. Like, for example, if you're raising, or let's say when you're raising, you know, right, where will the business be with the money that I'm raising? So you can backwork. So for example, for us today, we currently manage like 6 crores of investor funds. We cater to like 1,000 clients. So when we are racing our next round, that number we know where we want to be, with the money that we are raising. So we analyze based on how much money that we're gonna spend in terms of getting to that point. So this will help also when you're pitching, right? Because one question is what are you gonna do with the money? So if you go with the right, the right allocations, for example, how much for team, how much for licenses, how much for marketing, how much for branding. So it's more of setting the goal and then working back. Coming to equity, I think it's a negotiation most of the time. When you decide how much you need, you speak with the VC or the investor, and then you negotiate with them in terms of it's just like bargaining. It's like you're giving out something, right? So you have to set a worth. For example, you're like, in this round, I'm not going to give away more than 10% or more than 20%, right? So it's like getting in terms of, having that conversation with them and reaching something that you are okay with. For example, if you have set a bar saying, I'm not going to give away more than 10%, but the VC is like, I'm going to give you money, but I need 20%. Then it's for you to decide, right, whether to go with them or back off and try for someone else.
What Zakhil is saying is how desperate you are at some point of time.
Correct, exactly,
because,
exactly.
It's a desperation
Totally.
because if you want to make the business go an entrepreneur, it also depends upon what area you are in, right? For example, if you are going to be selling chilies or chili related products, there's only a certain market within India and outside India. It cannot be super global. So how the approach will be, whether it's for India, for the globe kind of a thing, depends upon what area you will be innovating and you want the business to be in, right? Most of the innovations is side by side innovation which takes place. Like Uber is what get Ola started in India. Now after Ola and Uber, we have something called Nammayatri, which is all the auto drivers have got together and they've gotten a startup done, and they pay 30 rupees as a platform fee as compared to 20% on Ola and Uber. So that's also an innovation, but it's working fine. It totally depends upon what area of entrepreneurship you will take, whether it's India or global as such. Hey, one last thought I want to leave all of you guys is, Malayalis typically have been great pioneers. Okay, it's said that I used to hear this joke that when Neil Armstrong reached the moon, there was already a Malayali selling tea there. Okay, so it is in your blood to be entrepreneurs and to be innovators. So I think you have to take the lead and push for it to happen as to whether you innovate. And when you innovate and when you're a pioneer, I think that's when you make the most money. And that's also the story of Amazon too, right? Now you have so many others like Amazon, but Amazon keeps pioneering, and I work for Amazon. I know how desperate they will be. Like nobody has got a Kindle now other than Amazon, right? So there are many more readers, but Kindle is the main thing. So if you are a pioneer in something, you actually harvest the best results possible if you have the right ecosystem, this thing. Thank you so much for your hospitality, and it was a pleasure. I think collectively all of them, my panelists will agree. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and if you have any other questions and any comments, you can talk to us outside, and we are all on LinkedIn. You see our profiles. Get connected, network more, and don't be hesitant. Don't either you run or you jump, but don't stop and think about running and jumping. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. And if you have to fail fast, because that's why you have serial entrepreneur. If you take even Zakhil, this is not his first venture. This is not his first gig, right? So the more you entrepreneur, the more experience you gain, or the more richer you get, or both can happen to you. So that's a win-win situation. But one win is also enough. Sometimes learning is a key experience. Then the L drops off, then it becomes earning experience. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. And what a great message to be ending the session with. And now may I humbly request Ms. Anu Ravindran, the Honorable Deputy Director of the CS and IT Department of the Jain Team to be University, to kindly join with us and express our love and appreciation for such a wonderful panel discussion. And may I now humbly request our moderator, Shri Bharathwaj Ranganathan, to kindly join with us and accept a token of appreciation from our end, please. So can we please step on to outside, if it's okay? Thank you so much for the smooth navigation of the conversation. It was the questions and the answers that we all wanted to know. Thank you once again. And now may I humbly request Ms. Abhishree to kindly join with us to kindly accept a gesture of deep appreciation. Thank you so much, Abhishree, for your participation as well as for encouraging the entire young women to start up something on their own and to do a great business, because that is one smooth way to manage your time as well. Thank you once again. And now may I humbly request Mr. Vasanth Jeyapaul to kindly accept a memento of respect to you, please. And thank you so much for highlighting how we could enhance the credit worthiness of those who doesn't have a formal income source. Thank you so much. And finally, may I humbly request Mr. Zakhil Suresh to kindly accept our souvenir. And thank you so much for bringing on your perspectives on the mistakes that shall not be made in an entrepreneurial journey, especially to have that backup plan. And may I now humbly request all the panelists to kindly join together for a group photograph. Ms. Anu, can you also please be a part of this photo session?